What if XRP soars above 100 before your Uber Eats order even arrives due to a reunification trick that is occurring right in front of us? Sounds crazy, doesn't it? However, this journey is more insane than the memcoin season. You've probably experienced the sensation discovering a crumpled 100 dirham note from the previous winter in your jeans pocket. Now take it and multiply it by a couple 100,000%. Ripple's XRP election is currently experiencing a similar surge. The thing is this, the financial system as a whole is silently being rebuilt in real time. Furthermore, paper contracts are no longer the foundation. The code is tokenized as are being created from real world assets such as bonds, equity, debt, real estate, and even whiskey barrels. What's lubricating that machine, you ask? XRP. And the more you investigate, the more that XRP is the infrastructure itself rather than merely an asset. Welcome back to the channel where we analyze what's actually going on behind those billion-dollar headlines, announcements that are never explained by the mainstream. Pay closely, because this is going to blow your mind. Let's begin with a breadcrumb that most folks didn't see. According to a report from Dubai, this could be the most subdued trillion-dollar signal to date. A 16 billion real estate tokenization project based on the XRP ledger was launched by the Dubai Land Department. You heard correctly, 16 billion. It's not a blockchain experiment or startup gimmick. This is Dubai, the same city that physically moved its buildings out of the sand property market onto the tracks of ripples. Imagine taking every penthouse that sparkles along Sheikh Zayed Road, cutting it up into digital slices, and allowing investors to purchase a piece for 2,000 dirhams each, which is the cost of a weekend brunch. Within days, over 3,000 investors piled in. Why? Due to the fact that tokenization reduces the barrier to entry. It transforms the market for premium real estate into a worldwide ownership vending machine. This is where it becomes interesting, though. Every single one of those transactions flows through XRP PPL and needs XRP to move. XRP isn't only the ticket, it consists of the settlement layer, lubricant, and gasoline. Every property traded and every slice sold uses up XRP, locks up liquidity, and burns transaction cycles. This isn't conjecture. Usage is this. Dubai isn't dancing alone either. Orient Equity is creating a 1-1 tubbly to tokenize corporate debt and private equity on XRPPL once more. That's Wall Street Great Instruments Series B shares. Mezzanine loans getting divided into microshares, traded 247. Traditionally, that market's been controlled by silk ties and champagne parties. Anyone with a wallet and WeFi can now access it. When you take a step back, you see that this isn't a hype cycle. It's an economic migration, the actual value to the XRP ledger. Everything is aligning, including bonds, treasuries, startup equity, and real estate. Additionally, XRP is the motor that turns underlying every shift of that value. When you follow the path from Dubai to Wall Street to Ripple's own treasury, that's only the first breadcrumb. With tokenization deals, the image becomes more larger and crisper. Crypto is no longer the only topic here. Reconstruct is the covert reconstruction of the global financial infrastructure while everyone else continues to follow meme charts. Let's discuss the aspect that is taboo in the mainstream crypto media. The real logic drawer's upcoming supply shortage. Everyone is yelling adoption, that utility this, however. Very few people are elucidating the mechanisms by which such remarks genuinely result in price change. This is the unvarnished reality. XP's price doesn't explode from hype. When the demand for liquidity exceeds the amount in circulation, it blows up. And that's precisely what's beginning to occur at the moment due to a single word that will rule the financial industry in 2025, tokenization. There is a crucial phase that goes on behind the scenes for any tokenized asset, be it a piece of real estate in Dubai, a bond in Singapore, or equities in London settlement, and the bridge token that transfers value across those rails instantaneously and for Versling is called XRP. This capital isn't speculative, it's capital that serves a purpose. XRP must be momentarily locked up in order to settle each and every transaction. And that's not simply liquidity flow when you multiply that by the billions of tokenized assets. Liquidity absorption is that. Consider it. XRPPL becomes more and more enmeshed in transactional cycles, used and briefly unavailable for trading as more projects build upon it. Active liquidity is drained in this way. And when it occurs on a large scale, even a small increase in tokenized value of 10 billion can generate pressure that are far greater than what we witnessed in 2017 or 2021. Add Ripple's partnerships to that now. We're not discussing startups here. We are discussing money of institutional quality. Ripple has verified partnerships with some of the world's largest financial infrastructures and settlement trials, government-backed stablecoin pilots, and CBDC programs. Every single one of them utilizes or will use XRP-PPL. What happens when banks start holding XRP as a bridge asset between digital currencies? You generate indifferent structural demand about retail price swings. Camels are not chased by banks, they chase liquidity efficiency. When they discover that XRP reduces transaction costs by 60-80%, it becomes mandatory. It is unavoidable. This is where things start to go crazy. Internal estimates from several liquidity providers indicate that XRP will require in on-chain liquidity to maintain market stability after daily institutional activity surpasses about 10 trillion in tokenized settlements. No one has yet to price in that silent squeezing. Recall that there is a limited amount of XP in circulation. Though a sizable fraction is locked in escrow and another share is inactive in institutional accounts, the entire ceiling is 100 billion. A far smaller pool is genuinely moving on exchanges as a result. We're not talking about a slow ascent if demand from tokenized settlements begins to strike at scale. We're talking about a vertical move, a liquidity explosion that reprices XRP in weeks, not years. It's not structural economics is what this is. The same way oil prices spike when global demand surges faster than production, which will react to its function as the universal liquidity layer for tokenized finance. Let me remind you that the first pilot initiatives are already underway before you assume that's a long way off. Real estate asset pools being explored behind closed doors with private partners has already been alluded to by Ripple. The shock to liquidity will occur immediately after they go public. Financial organizations test in billions rather than thousands because of this. Therefore, whether XRP goes parabolic is not the question. When the dam bursts, that is, since this is where things start to get serious, let's now connect the dots. Ripple does more than merely develop technology. They're constructing the financial backbone for the new global liquidity network. Consider how fax machines were supplanted by the internet. The goal of Ripple is to replace the antiquated financial infrastructure that's still $150 trillion annually via Fedwire, DTCC, and SWIFT. This is where XRP holders should take notice that the organization driving the tokenization movement are the same ones that Ripple has been collaborating with behind closed doors. All of these companies, BlackRock, Fidelity, Citi, and JP Morgan, are putting up tokenization infrastructure, but without a bridge, none of their assets can move freely. Years ago, Ripple constructed that bridge. In their trillion-dollar architecture, XRP is the settlement layer that is lacking. Examine the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, or DTCC. It makes more than $25 quadrillion in securities annually. They recently verified that they are integrated into the blockchain. Systems and multiple insiders have pointed to Ripple's software as part of those settlement testing. This theory isn't a meme. To speed up clearing times, DTCC has previously conducted distributed ledger experiments with several blockchain networks. And because Ripple is scalable, compliant, and built for real-time liquidity, it fits that architecture better than anything else. This is where the true interest lies. While the retail market keeps getting captivated by meme coins, institutional rails are being quietly erected. The Ripple's obtaining payment licenses, building out hallways, and bringing on additional partners who regularly work with cross-border value. They are constructing settlement pipelines in the Middle East, corridors in Africa, and liquidity pools in Asia. It's the infrastructure, not hype, and when such systems start tokenizing bonds, commodities, and securities on chain, liquidity flow will require XRP adoption. It's baked into the model since you can't move tokenized assets between ledgers unless you have an interoperable bridge token. Let's be honest now, Ripple's plan is daring. They're presenting XRP as a neutral settlement asset between rival financial systems rather than as a speculative coin. Consider if the US, Europe, and Asia each have their own CBDCs, none of them will want to rely on the other's digital currency as the global standard. They will require decentralized, neutral, effective, and compliant system. It's no accident that Ripple is collaborating with central banks, developing CBDC platforms, and growing its on-demand liquidity ODL network at the same time. That's XRP. XRP is used in all ODL transactions. You're looking at an exponentially growing liquidity web when you multiply that by each corridor where Ripple is opening. This is where Ripple outperforms the competition. Predictability and scalability. Institutional use of Ethereum is impossible because to its gas prices. Bitcoin's too sluggish and energy heavy. Despite its speed, Solana lacks regulatory trust. The only cryptocurrency that consistently has transaction times under 3 seconds and costs pennies is XRP. Institutions require that. Add Ripple's latest acquisitions to all of those. For example, Macaco protects digital assets for big institutions. By that action alone, Ripple gains direct access to the custodial infrastructure of some of the world's largest financial institutions. They won't be arriving. They've already arrived. Therefore, those who claim that XRP cannot move without hype are completely missing the mark. Twitter isn't laying the foundation for XRP's next price eruption. It is being included into the foundation of international finance. The crazy part comes next. The next big thing isn't going to be retail. It's an institution. Liquidity deployment. Every price estimate below 50 is rendered outdated when that switch flips. Okay, then let's discuss the competitive environment since this is where the brutality starts. Everyone in the blockchain ecosystem knows that tokenization is the next trillion-dollar race, but most of these networks are sprinting in the wrong direction. For instance, Ethereum is attempting to transition into institutional DeFi, but let's